Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about 7 lessons learned from making a move abroad. And these are lessons I've learned, but also lessons I've learned by seeing my clients make the move as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Patricia Brooks. I'm an American living in the south of France, and I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in a foreign country, but who have some concerns or some uncertainty or some fears or some doubts that it's even possible. I help them to work through that so that they can finally take that leap and start living the life that they have been dreaming of for years. And on this channel, I talk about my experience living in France. I also share tips on making a move abroad and give you some ideas on how you can move to the life that you know you were meant to live more easily. And today I'm going to be talking about 7 things that I learned based on my experience and the experience of my clients making a move abroad. Now, this is going to be a ride-along, walk-along video. I'm going to be sharing some footage of a recent trip I took to Argelès-sur-Mer. So we're going to get down to it. Now, my last video was all about how my having been a project manager in corporate America helped me to make my move abroad and settle in here nicely. And one of the things that we do on a project, at the end of a project, is we have what's called a lessons learned session. Sometimes it's called a post-mortem. And it's a meeting where we talk about all the things that went well on the project and that we might want to repeat for our future projects, and all the things that didn't go so well so that we can avoid those in the future. And so today I'm going to be talking about 7 lessons that I learned based on my experience and the experience of others. Now, the first lesson learned is don't assume that something is not possible. I made the mistake of assuming that it would be cost prohibitive to ship anything to France. And so I set about to get rid of everything. And I did a really good job. But a week before, there were still some items that I didn't know what to do with. They were sentimental items. And because I was down to the wire, I decided I was going to get a storage shed. Pay for a storage shed, and it was just supposed to be for a year so that I could get on with this move to France. Well, the problem with my assumption of the cost of shipping would be prohibitive was that it left me to have to store things and pay storage. And then if you know anything about storage, they give you a nice teaser rate, something that's like, oh, that's not that much a month. I can afford that. And then 6 months later, they hike the price. And then another 6 months later, they hike it again. And you find yourself paying too much money. Second thing that assuming that I couldn't ship did for me was that I, in the end, wound up shipping those things because 2 years later, I was tired of paying all of that money for storage, and I just decided to ship. But I shipped after my first year in France, which meant that I was going to have to pay import taxes. Okay, so I've paid storage fees. Now I'm paying import taxes on stuff that just only had personal value to me. So it cost me more because I made that assumption. And it cost me the shipping. So it was really not a smart thing to do to assume that shipping would be too expensive. And the third thing that it cost me was that there was a little bit of a delay in how I viewed my life in France. You know, it still felt a little bit temporary. And, a member of my program said something similar. She recently shipped things after being in Germany for 3 years. She said once she received those things, and even though she too had to pay import taxes, when she received those things, she said, this is the first time that Germany has really felt like home. So that sense of this is my new place. I'm putting down roots here. Now, the second lesson that I learned, and this is something that I did well, but some people don't, and that is to know where you are going to be, at least for that first year. Now, this is something that people struggle with. I don't know where in the country that I want to move to, that I want to be long term. But if you can know that, if you know that, and if you could even know the neighborhood in that city or town, that can really help. Because as you're applying for your carte vitale, and this is in France, for your health insurance card, you put down the address and you're going to be there. You know you're going to be there for at least the next 9 months, and that card can find you in the mail. You haven't put down one address and then moved to another address. And other documents as well. It also helps to take out some of the uncertainty that a move abroad brings you. If you know, I know that I will stay put, at least for that first year, and I know where I'm going to be, that takes some uncertainty out, and that can give you a little bit of space around everything else that you're going to be dealing with. It can also, if you know the neighborhood in the city that you want to go to, it can allow you to, say, when you're going on a scouting trip, to find an Airbnb or vacation rental by owner in that neighborhood that you might potentially be able to rent longer term and know what it's really like inside. Now, I didn't have that advantage. I did come on a scouting trip. The Airbnb that I stayed in was a little bit on the outskirts of the city, and I knew that I didn't want to be on the outskirts, so that wouldn't have worked out for me. But had it, I'd already met with the owners. They knew me. They knew that I didn't have a wild party, wasn't tearing it up. And so if I were to have said, hey, I'm going to be moving here and I'd like to have a year lease, would you be open to doing that? That would go a lot more easily. Now, when I applied for my first visas, there was a requirement that said you needed to have a year lease in order to get the visa. And so that's what I did. I got a year lease based on, it was a vacation rental by owner. I signed a lease, and that was my proof. But recently, my clients who are making moves abroad and they're getting visitor visas or other types of visas as well, they have been able to get a visa based on having 3 months of accommodations. And so I don't know if there's a change in the requirements or if they've just, not been enforcing the year lease. But for me, I didn't think it was an option. And so I did that. What that did was that allowed me to do some very important things. And so this leads me into number 3. If you're going to rent, and if you know where you are going to land, what city you're going to land in, then getting a year lease in advance could make it easier. That is the third lesson learned. I didn't realize how much easier it was for me, even though there was a little bit of a hiccup. In the first place I rented and got that year-long lease, it was a great apartment, except that it smelled like sewer gas. And they weren't able to resolve that. And so I knew that I couldn't stay there. So I was told that if I got a medical certificate that I could get out of the lease. And so that's what I did. And I went on and I found another apartment to live in for a year. Okay. But it allowed me to hit the ground running. Now, I was on a visitor visa, and I wasn't working. So there was not a whole lot else I had to do. So that allowed me to explore my city. That allowed me to start getting into activities where I could meet people and make friends. And that first 3 months wasn't spent, oh my gosh, I'm only in this apartment for 3 months. I've got to find something else. So it took some of that pressure that I would have had otherwise off. And if you are moving and you do have a job, or if you are moving on a visa where you're starting a business, that will allow you to focus on the job or focus on getting your business up to speed. Making a big move and starting a business all in the same year is a lot to swallow. So If you can take something off your plate for those first 3 months, that will allow you to put your head down and get to business. That will be so very helpful. And one other thing, even though Perpignan was not where I stayed long term, I stayed there for a year and then moved to a village just outside of Surrey, it was something I didn't have to deal with in that first 3 months. Now, this fourth lesson learned is know how you want to experience your move abroad. Now, I often talk about knowing what your vision is for your life abroad. What is it that you want to have, experience, do, or become when you're living abroad? And I think that's really important to have a primary goal, especially if you're coming on a visitor visa and you're retired. You may find yourself looking around for things to do or feeling like there's some emptiness, and that emptiness can create loneliness. So that's important. What I'm talking about here is, how do you want to experience the actual move? How do you want to experience those weeks leading up to your move? How do you want to experience the day of the move? How do you want to experience getting on that plane? How do you want to experience how you arrive? And for me, I worked to live by the motto, life was not meant to be a struggle, where struggle is effort laced with negative emotions. Negative emotions that create more anxiety than necessary, that create stress and struggle and strain. For me, I work to minimize that. And so that's how I wanted to experience my move abroad. And so one of the things that I did to work to make that happen was I started to downsize way before I even knew that a move abroad was possible for me. It was in my mind. I thought, yeah, I need to start doing this, because I'd seen other people move abroad. I have a coach friend who moved from the United States to Australia, and she shared with me the day before she was supposed to get on a plane, she had so much stuff in her house, and it was so stressful. And the way she recounted it made me feel like, yeah, that's not how I want to experience my move abroad. And so I started downsizing early. And that's why I always say, oh, you're moving abroad in 2 years? Have you started downsizing? Now might be a good time to do that. And once you've envisioned how you want your move to go, the smoothness that you want it to go, as you've envisioned yourself getting on that plane and having everything already taken care of, 2 weeks beforehand, so that you can have that peace and calm getting on that plane, it matters. It matters not only the week before or the day that you're moving or the week after you've landed. It matters because how you've left your old country, if you've left it and you were harried and frenzied, that sets the tone for how you're going to start off your new life in your new country. And I liken it to, if you've ever overslept, say you got to be at work at 9 o'clock in the morning and you've got a 45-minute drive to work and you wake up at 8:30. You know how that feels? How you jump out of bed, your heart's racing, you're scrambling to get ready to get on the road so you can get to work and not be too late. How does your day go after that? Doesn't go too well, does it? Right? Seems like one thing after another goes wrong, and you're like, oh, I should have just stayed home. Right? Well, because waking up late and feeling rushed and harried has set the tone for your day. And it's the same thing for your move abroad. So, how do you want to experience your move abroad? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And how can you work to make that happen? Starting to get rid of stuff sooner rather than later. But what are the other things that need to be in order so that you can get on that plane and know that, I've done everything. I can sit back and relax until the plane touches down in my new home. Now, downsizing, getting rid of things sooner rather than later is definitely a thing you want to do. Now, you might struggle with this because it's a big undertaking. You might have accumulated a lot of things in your life. And so you might not even know where to start. You might be feeling overwhelmed because there is so much stuff. Or maybe the idea of shipping your things abroad makes you tremble. That's normal. But if that is how you're feeling and you would like to have a game plan on how to move through that more seamlessly, then I've got something for you. Dr. Christopher Wells, who is an expat living in Valencia, Spain, and I are putting on an online workshop called Plan, Pack, Minimize. This workshop is for you if you are ready to go from feeling overwhelmed by clutter and indecision to having a clear and actionable plan to downsize your possessions. Or, maybe you just don't know where to start and you'd like a roadmap to show you the steps that you need to take before, during, and after your move so that you can manage your things. Or maybe you're struggling with letting go of sentimental things and you want to move into a space where you're feeling confident that you are decluttering with purpose and know that you are truly bringing with you only those things that will make your life overseas more enjoyable. If that's the case, then you can go to thecouragecatalyst.com/plan pack. And I'll put a link to this in the description where you can learn more about our Plan, Pack, Minimize workshop that's coming up March 22nd, 2025. All right. So number 5 is don't store. I stored and I learned the hard way that it's costly, that I'm kicking the can down the road and I'm going to have to pay for import taxes once I eventually decide to ship. So, unless you are planning to return within a year and you are planning to use the things that you have stored once you return in a year, I don't recommend storing your things. I've shared a little bit about why I feel that way in this video already. If you want to hear more about my experience, you can check out the video that's called 6 Things I Wish I'd Done Sooner Moving. And I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Number 6 is if you're going to ship in the first year. I don't know about a lot of countries, but I know for France, I know for Spain, and maybe it's all European Union countries, but I can't really say for certain. But if you ship in the first year, you move abroad and you ship in that first year, you do not have to pay import taxes on what you ship. If you ship after the first year, you do. And the freight companies might tell you, oh no, you'll be okay. You're a resident, you don't have to. But once your things get there, you're going to get a call saying you owe this amount before we can release your stuff. And this happened to me, and this happened to another person who has worked with me in the past. And it's not a pleasant thing to get this unexpected bill. And number 7 is if you are coming on a profession libéral visa for France, that's a visa that will allow you to set up your own business here. If at all possible, get your business going and generating income before you arrive. Now, I say this because starting a business from scratch takes time. It takes time to build up momentum. It takes time to build up a network of people who can help you move forward. It takes time to become the authority in that field where people start to know, like, and trust you and start to refer you and start to sign up for your programs or courses or your coaching or whatever it is you're offering. And so if you are on a visa where you have to show that your business is viable in a year's time, a year is not a long time. The other reason I say get started now and start generating income now where you are is because starting a business, if you have never started one and never generated income, can cause you to feel like you don't have a lot of confidence in what you're doing. And so if you don't have a lot of confidence in what you're doing, that can slow the process down as well. That can take away the confidence that you have about you starting a new life in a foreign country. But if you've generated some income, if somebody has paid you something for what you are offering, that is a huge confidence boost. It shows proof of concept. It also helps the people who are reviewing your visa that, oh, this person has something that has already started generating income, and so we can have a little bit more confidence in the fact that it will be successful as well. Additionally, if you are moving abroad and you have not figured out where you're going to live and you are going to go the route of 3 months, applying for a visa with accommodations for 3 months, and that gets through, that works for you, then you're going to, on top of standing up a business, you're going to have to find a place to stay longer term. And that's going to eat away at your time for focusing on your business. But if you've already started getting it going, you've formed the foundation, you've started making contacts, started building your network, then that takes a little bit of the pressure off. All right. So those are the 7 lessons I've learned. There were some positive things that I did and some things that maybe I wish I could have done a little bit differently. Which one of those surprises you the most? Let me know in the comments. All right. Now, if you're making a move abroad and you are in the process of downsizing, getting rid of things, or maybe you should be, but there's something that keeps you stuck and you need help with that, then definitely check out Plan, Pack, Minimize. The link is in the description, and we hope to see you there. Additionally, I have a checklist of 14 things to do while you wait to move abroad, checklist that will help you to be in a better position once you are ready to get on that plane and start your new life in your new country. And I'll put a link to that in the description as well. All right. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I truly appreciate you. That's all I have for you today. I will see you again next time. Bye for now.